Of my client with Mr. Beiber, with their arms around each other. So I don't know how afraid they are.
Can you turn it over this way, sir?
Do you know what year that was taken?
This is a current picture.
Hold on, can I have you?
Sir, do you think this new law is an attempt to chill news gathering of all forms, and that the governor who signed it into effect might have had something to hide at that time, and it would have affected that chilling of the news gathering?
Well, certainly Governor Schwarzenegger, who was in office at the time this was passed, has had his run-ins with people seeking photographs. So it is something that there are interesting political forces, especially where it's the first crime. It's really termed the Anti-Paparazzi Law and is mainly aimed at people in the Hollywood area. So.
And didn't he have a love child and a maid living in the governor's mansion at that time? And that would have been a great story, and that may be the motivation behind him signing this into law?
I don't know if I would go that far, but certainly when you have a governor who's a movie actor, who's back into movie acting, I guess, it does lead you to wonder what other thoughts he had when he was signing that into law.
But in effect, he did have a love child in the governor's mansion and a maid lover in the
No, that was
mansion.
before he became governor.
And they came into the mansion many times.
Yeah, I don't know that that's...
Yeah, but the child was not conceived while he was governor.
Maybe put that down.
You know, maybe you want to see yourself in the reflection. I don't know.
Sir, is there any indication of who financed this law?
The law was basically some entertainment lawyers that represent celebrities put together this law along with Carmen Trutanich, the city
Would that be
attorney.
the same celebrities who put into effect the last two anti-paparazzi laws, which have not been enforced?
Yes, and it's, again, our position is there's stalking laws already on the books, there's reckless driving on the books, and this is simply, you know, just going after the same conduct, but for a specific class.
So isn't everyone supposed to be equal in the eyes of the law?
Yes, and there shouldn't be any special treatment just because the person allegedly being chased is a celebrity. In fact, this law wouldn't cover a crazed fan following him to do something other than take a photo. This law wouldn't even apply to them.
Well, how about the people who were following OJ on his famous chase?
Well, he was going slow, so I don't know how reckless, but yes, that could apply if they're going for a photograph for commercial purposes, such as you, it would apply.
Yes, everyone out here works for a living, taking pictures of celebrities and newsworthy people for a living.
Yes, and as I've said before, all reporters and photographers are paid by somebody, so the commercial part of this law really is something that is overbroad and is Eisner, E-I-S-N-E-R, and Gorin, G-O-R-I-N.
You are representing?
We are representing Paul Raef.
What happened in court today?
Today we filed a demur, which is a challenge to the constitutionality of the 4008 Vehicle Code section, the new law that was filed in 2010. So we are challenging the constitutionality of that new charge.
When is that actually going to be heard? And I mean, did the city attorney indicate they were ready to argue this on this basis?
No, they're requesting time to respond to it, so the matter will be heard on September 24th in the Division 113 of this court.
Is your client at this point in custody, or has he been booked?
No, he is not in custody. He has an order to be booked, which is a formality where you walk into the police station and walk out. He actually went to get booked previously on this charge, but LAPD did not recognize it as a crime, so they sent the paperwork back.
Was it just one charge of this, or is it two?
No, there's two charges of Vehicle Code Section 4008, two charges of Vehicle Code Section 23103, which is the ordinary reckless driving.
What's your argument against the law?
That it's unconstitutional for several reasons stated in our motion. It infringes on the freedom of the press. It is also vague in its application and also overbroad. in addition to that, there already is a reckless driving section on the books that covers this action. So this specifically goes at a select class of people.
On September 23rd, you'll be actually in court, hopefully, to argue this. The city attorney will be there to respond. What realistically do you expect to happen if you win in your argument and convince the judge this section of the law is unconstitutional?
It's actually September 24th, but on that date, if the judge does find that it's unconstitutional, those charges would be dismissed. I imagine if that happens, that the city attorney will appeal or take a writ on that. If we lose, I imagine that we will take an appeal or a writ on that. So this will be decided eventually, probably by a higher court.
You flip the coin on that one. If the judge says, no, I find this to be constitutional, you said you're going to file a writ, but do you also then have to go to trial, or does that have to wait until the appeals court gets the work done here?
The writ would effectively stop the proceedings until the higher courts rule on the constitutionality.
Which could take how long?
It could take several months. There are several courts of appeal, so it would go ultimately possibly to the California Supreme Court, so that could take months.
Is there any need for Mr. Beiber to be in court if those two charges are dropped but the other two are there? Do you intend to challenge them?
If there's no Vehicle Code Section 4008, I don't see the need for any other drivers to be present, since that would be the normal reckless driving charge and not have anything to do with chasing a celebrity.
Will the reckless driving charges be folded into the others then, so it's all going to be taken care of by trial court?
Basically, the reckless driving 23103 of the Vehicle Code that has already been on the books for many years, that's what we would go to trial on, hopefully, that the other charge, the new charge, would be thrown out, and that we would just proceed on the reckless driving allegation.
And with that one charge, you're saying it targets a specific group?
Yes, it only targets people that are driving recklessly for the purpose of getting a photo for commercial purposes.
If the court, the appeals court, does hold this to be constitutional, this thing will then have to go to trial. How do you envision handling that trial? Do you intend to depose Mr. Beiber, have him show up in court? How's that going to work?
Yes, if it does go to trial, I imagine if the section is not found unconstitutional, Mr. Beiber is a necessary witness that either the people or the defense will call as part of this case, as well as some of the drivers that observed Mr. Beiber's driving on that morning.
When you look at what may happen on the 23rd, how long do you expect realistically arguments to take? And is this the judge probably going to sit back for a minute and say, let's go carefully on this thing. This is the first time we're all here on this one.
Yes, this is a case of what we call first impression, and therefore I imagine the court may take it under submission and make a ruling in writing once all the arguments are presented.
Odds are this is not going to be a hasty ruling by the judge. Consider it for 15 or 20 minutes and then come back. He would probably want to take some time.
I would imagine, because we're citing, these are some constitutional principles that for many of us we haven't dealt with since law school. So there are law review articles on it that directly talk about the unconstitutionality of this law. So I imagine that any judicial officer would want to read all those and make a reasoned opinion, especially in light of the fact that it may go up on appeal.
Is this the first time?
This is he is the first person in California charged with this crime.